Right now on the Northwestern News Report, conversations with the people representing us during this uncertain time. From student government,
we've had to shift our mindset into expanding current programs to safeguarding them,
to the federal government.
The absence of students, of course, changes the nature and personality and priorities of our community.
What cues are leaders taking as Northwestern looks to return to campus? And whether or not we're back in Evanston next school year, what's being done to make sure student voices are heard? It's your news right now. Welcome to a special politics edition of Northwestern News Report. I'm Olivia Olander. Power dynamics between state, local, and federal government have been laid bare and sometimes disputed as the country continues to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Yet from coast to coast, everyone is tuned into Capitol Hill, where Congress is working on nationwide aid packages. This month, the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives passed the $3 trillion HEROES Act, pushing for more payments to individuals and emergency relief for state and local governments. The Republican-controlled Senate, which must vote on the bill next, is currently on recess. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says if the Senate does pass another relief bill, it, quote, won't look anything like the one passed by Democrats in the House. All this after Congress passed the $2 trillion CARES Act for relief to individuals and businesses back in March, and legislation for small businesses and hospitals at the end of April. What do these developments mean for Northwestern? To find out, I spoke to Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, who represents the Illinois congressional district that includes Evanston, and supported each of these bills.
How have the needs of the districts been represented in the legislation related to coronavirus over the past couple of weeks? Since the pandemic began, I have seen you take stances on privacy, supply shortages, nursing home deaths. So I guess why were those the issues you chose to work with, and how are they being represented?
Well, you mentioned the issues that I care about, but I think one of the most important things about the district has been the cooperation between the state senators and representatives, the county, the city of Evanston. The mayor I've been on a lot of phone calls with him, and the governor, because unfortunately there's been, I was going to say zero leadership, actually leadership in the wrong direction at the federal level, that I think has not only prolonging the agony of COVID-19 for so many people and for our country, but has actually cost lives. So I think at the state and local level that we're doing a really good job. I'm also happy with the federal bill that did pass, the HEROES Act, that puts lots of money into state and local government, but also addressed a number of my concerns, including some of the nursing home provisions that are in there that will, I hope, end up making them not the hot spots that they are right now. But it's just been unbelievable to see what the lack of federal leadership has brought. And I am very fearful that it's could still get worse before it gets better.
So Northwestern students have not been in the district for the past couple of months, since March. How would you say the absence of students has affected the area, and maybe how you represent the district?
The absence of students, of course, changes, as everything else has too, the nature and personality and priorities of our community. Weird all around.
In what way would you say it's changed the personality of the community?
You know, Northwestern is a major institution and influence. You know, if you go to downtown Evanston or you go to restaurants, which of course we don't do now, So many things happening. I often meet with representatives of Northwestern talking about the priorities of things that we should pass. And now everything is very much coronavirus focused. And so a lot of that has really, really changed. And it's really sad.
The question on the minds of a lot of us right now is whether we'll be able to go back to school in the fall. So I was just wondering if there are specific steps or markers that you would like to see in order to feel confident about Northwestern opening for the fall quarter.
Well, the governor has actually laid out some different benchmarks, not dates, but what things should look like, and what the numbers ought to show in Illinois. That's my guidepost. I'm going to follow those things. The lakefront in Chicago, anyway, is still shut down. Those are the kinds of things that make me really sad. But I get it. We don't want people crowding and playing volleyball or running into each other on the bike paths or the jogging paths. And so it makes it all the much harder.
Some college students, I guess, have been disappointed that we didn't qualify for payments under some of the earlier coronavirus stimulus bills. So I guess what was your take on that? And then are there plans to include college students in more legislation as we head into the summer?
Yes, I think there were a number of things that we really wanted to do and will do going forward. The only thing we did was to extend a little bit of debt relief, and I think we have to do a lot more. That's true of things like sick leave and childcare. Kind of big holes in the even the new legislation, but we're trying to really just drill down on the virus. But of course, the virus is responsible for the fact that you're home, you're doing your best to continue your education, and you're left in limbo. There is wide, not just interest, but commitment, be stronger, in providing some relief. We did get college students that are 17 to be included in getting, as dependents, getting the checks that are going to be coming. But it really is a hole, I think, in the legislation that's been passed thus far to deal effectively with what is a national crisis. It really is. And so I'm listening carefully to you and your emphasis on this concern, and I've made it my own as well.
Thank you again so much for speaking with me this morning. This was really informative and helpful. So
thank you. You did a great job. Thank you. And to all the students, we are looking forward to welcoming you back to Evanston.
For more of that interview, check out Politicat, NNN's political show, at twitter.com/politicatNNN. We turn now to Northwestern's own associated student government. Catherine Conti and Juan Zuniga knew they were interested in running for office before the pandemic reached Northwestern. The election was remote, and they're beginning their term in an uncertain time. NNN's Joey Safchik and Justin Sweetwood chatted with ASG's new president and executive vice president to find out how they plan to advocate for a student body temporarily without a campus.
For more than a year, Politicat has been following developments in the 2020 presidential election, but now we want to take a look at the results of a race that hits a little closer to home.
Catherine Conti and Juan Zuniga are the newly elected president and vice president of the Associated Student Government, respectively. Their victory comes in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic as they lead a student body during this unprecedented time while students are scattered across the world.
So Catherine and Juan are joining us now. So first to Catherine and then to Juan. With your first quarter in office obviously being remote, how is that affecting your work?
Right. So we've actually
only just been sworn in less than 2 weeks ago. So spring quarter is sort of a half term for us, sort of like getting our feet planted, selecting the people that are going to be in our executive board, and sort of planning for the summer and then the next, then for fall. So it has been different just by the simple fact that we had to do the campaign remotely, and then our like meetings that we've had with administrators so far have been remote. But because we haven't started in on like necessarily our initiatives outside of base conversations with administrators, it hasn't felt too different, I think, from what I was necessarily expecting.
I think at least like going into the spring, I was pretty aware that like this quarter would be different. It's not like it's like something that we're not used to. I think it's just like a little different. We have to adapt, but everyone's adapting. You got to put in a little bit more effort to make those like connections keep going.
In a discussion earlier this month, Northwestern's political union voted that ASG really does matter to students. So how are you keeping students engaged and proving to them that ASG can do substantial work remotely?
So Juan and I right now have been focusing on our COVID-19 response in terms of talking with administrators of what's coming up in the fall, what are they thinking about for fall grading scheme, how is housing going to look, what is that financial tier structure going to look like if students are then put into non-dormant dorms, if they're trying to remove the option of doubles in the fall. We've already taken several meetings with student groups on campus, ranging from McCormick student groups, which have traditionally not really talked to ASG, to a couple activist groups, and then administrators to just try and see what students are expecting.
How has COVID-19 changed your policy goals?
We've had to shift our mindset in terms of like what we are thinking in late February and early March, when the university had gotten into the black in terms of the budget and gotten out of the budget crisis that we've been in for the last 2 years. COVID has now put us back into a very different sort of budget crisis, but a budget crisis nonetheless. And we've had to shift our mindset into expanding current programs to safeguarding them.
All right, I'm really curious if administration has been in contact with you guys regarding a potential return to campus in the fall.
Unfortunately, do not have any insider information to give the student body in terms of anything more than what's been released to the public.
Classes do remain remote in the fall. What will ASG do to ensure that the student body's concerns are heard by the university, particularly financially?
Right now, we're trying to create a COVID-19 task force to hopefully address some of these concerns and some of the future scenarios that at least like students will have to be concerned with, and like how we as an organization can best respond to those. So I think like moving forward, assuming that we are not in person in the fall, like ASG is going to do as much as it can to like essentially to ensure that students aren't overpaying for an experience that is not the equivalent to, again, like in-person learning.
All right, Catherine and Juan, thank you so much for joining us, and we will continue our coverage of your administration over the coming weeks and months.
Thanks, Joey and Justin. That's all the time we have for today's Northwestern News Report, and you can always get your NNN political news from Politicat. I'm Olivia Olander. Until next time, take care and stay well.